are the one, the world elite podcast. Take you to a level like, oh my God.
Well, hello again, everyone. We are the highest tier pod of your weekly unfiltered wrestling and entertainment. Welcome to the Worldly Podcast. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube as well. Of course, I'm Marcus back with another nostalgia episode, and I got on none other than Mike Dinero from the Wrestling Delorean Podcast. I had a brain fart there. I'm watching
all good.
Freddy's Revenge right here. I got my little Nightmare on Elm Street marathon going on right now because it's spooky season. But how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I had a blast last time I was on here, so very excited to be back on. And very excited about this show because it was a doozy of a show.
No Mercy 2001 was something like, may have been one of the top 5 shows of the Attitude Era of 2001.
Yeah, you know, a couple months ago, actually maybe a month ago on my podcast, I covered the whole Invasion angle, and I covered the Invasion pay-per-view. And it started out a little, you know, with a whimper. But I definitely think that they hit a home run with No Mercy 2001 for sure.
Yeah, it definitely was. I've recorded it on VHS. I've watched it countless times. There was so much good about it. I mean, first off, because of this show, I was introduced to Saliva, Click, Click, Boom. Mm-hmm. Maybe the first song I've heard from them off their, I think that was their debut album, Every 6 Seconds. I think it was.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. And then a couple months later, they used them again for WrestleMania with Superstar.
Yep, they had a lot of good songs on that album. Yeah. They even had Your Disease. There was another song on there, but yeah, Superstar you've heard on a lot of wrestling video games. Click, Click, Boom you've heard on a bunch of movies after this night. So
yeah,
but that old school Saliva with Josie Scott, not with what they got today.
No, yeah, definitely the old school Saliva. The Saliva from the early 2000s was a different beast.
Yeah, but this was like at 12 years old watching this, you know, you thought the Invasion angle was like a real thing when you go to Survivor Series, and we're like, are they going to try and put WWF out of business? This is crazy. Looking at it now, it's kind of goofy. It's like the kickstart of like a crossover. Like we look at it today, TNA's doing some shit with NXT. We've seen like CMLL and New Japan and Ring of Honor with AEW. You know, this is kind of like the start of crossovers, even though there's been crossovers in the past with CMLL and the WWF and WCW and New Japan. Just it was something like different, but people shit talking now because it's like, oh, we didn't get the WWF versus WCW like we wanted. We didn't get DX versus NWO. We didn't get Goldberg and Stone Cold. We didn't get Taker and Sting. Now we got like freaking APA versus Natural Born Thrillers, or we get Booker T and The Rock, which I mean I loved that. That was fucking great. And then by then you got like a lot of WWF guys on Team Alliance, WCW, ECW. You probably had one original in Booker T at the time and RVD, and the rest was like Austin, Angle, and Shane. Like WWF,
you had William Regal, Christian.
That's when they had that team at Survivor Series. Now, like Invasion, that was the closest you'll get to like OGs with DDP, Booker T, Rhino, and the Dudleys. Like that's original. What they did at Survivor Series was a joke.
By this time, you know, there was such a lack of star power with Team WCW and Team ECW that they tried to beef up the alliance with WWE stars. But if your storyline is a WCW and ECW invasion, then having guys like Christian and William Regal on Team WCW just didn't make no sense. I feel like they should have just kept it all separate. Or you know what would have been better? And I know this is like hindsight is 2020 and everybody says this now, but if they just would have waited a year and waited to do this whole invasion in 2002, you would have had all the big contracts up with Time Warner, and then you would have brought in NWO. You would have brought in Ric Flair. Eric Bischoff was there. This invasion angle could have been a lot better if they just held off for a year.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I enjoyed it. You know, it was special. It wasn't groundbreaking. It wasn't what people wanted, but at 12 years old, I enjoyed a bit of it. And
no, I did too.
I think what's kind of funny was at this time, you were you kind of see it in Ring of Honor today. You know, you got WCW titles defended on WWF television, but not a lot. But it's like now they were kind of like playing keep away. Like the Alliance damn near had all the titles. They had mainly damn near all the WWF titles. WWF damn near had all the WCW belts. It's like keep away.
Yeah.
At the time, let's see, like from WWF side, Rock was the WCW champ. The Hardys were the WCW tag champs. And then even though she disappeared on TV, Chyna had the women's title. That's all WWF had at the time. Mm-hmm. Where on the Alliance, Stone Cold was the WWF champion. Christian was the Intercontinental champion. Hurricane
Van Dam
was the European champion. RVD was the hardcore champion. The light heavyweight title got unified with the cruiserweight title. Billy Kidman had that belt. And Rhino had the WCW United States title. So they had damn near all the gold.
Yeah. And a lot of cases, you just like switched over and like swapped the titles. So all the WCW titles was on Team WWF and most of the WWF titles was on Team Alliance, which was very odd. But
99% of this card was WWF versus Alliance, except one match we'll get to later. Also, something about this show, like my brother loved this show too. This was one of his favorite stages of all time. I mean, I guess it's neato, but it just looks like a bunch of freaking sheets from a bed.
It looks like it's a drying rack, and they just like took all these sheets out the wash and was like air drying them.
I don't know what he finds so special about it. I mean, it was unique, but it's like it looks like a bunch of sheets.
But I do miss the unique sets for pay-per-views. Nowadays, everything looks the same, and it's cool. But like I like the unique sets for every single pay-per-view.
Oh yeah, I wish they would kind of bring that back, but you never know. I mean, they do it for WrestleMania, so like,
yeah,
with it going to Vegas, hell, watch the set be like a giant casino, or watch the set look like the Strip or something because it's in Vegas. They're gonna pull something like kind of like when they did for Vengeance 05 when they went in Vegas that year. That was a neat set, but
yeah.
So the show kicked off. We get the Hardy Boys versus Lance Storm and the Hurricane for the WCW Tag Team Championships. You know, got Team Extreme. Everyone loved them. Lance Storm had Ivory in his corner. I don't remember how she got a part of that. And Hurricane had Mighty Molly. I remember she formed a bond with him. I don't know if they were just dating, but she became his sidekick. She went from the Holly cousin dating Spike Dudley to wanting to be a superhero. Which Hurricane do you prefer? Did you prefer face paint, ponytail Hurricane, or do you like the mask with the green spiked hair?
I always liked the green spike hair and the mask. I always thought that was a cool look for him, especially when he was teaming up with Rosie, superhero in training. That was a great gimmick.
Shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was good.
So yeah. I think, maybe we're like a year out from seeing my favorite version of Hurricane, but this was a very fun version, especially when the Hurricane first started. And this match was cool too, because you had 3 Omega Boys. You had the Hardys and Hurricane Helms who all came up together in the North Carolina scene.
Oh yeah. Plus, I have a funny story about, like, I thought he was a unique character as a kid. Like, they came up with a superhero gimmick. So quick funny story. When I was in the 6th grade during this, I became so invested with that Hurricane character. Once in the 6th grade, we had a school project. We were learning about music, and she wanted us to make album covers, like create an album cover. She gives us 3 keywords. It was for an English project. Nice. And somehow we were each given 3 keywords to put like in the description of the album. Like, you name it whatever you want, but you got to use those 3 words in your paragraph. So one of my words was Hurricane. At Hurricane, uniform, and customer. Now, before I thought about this, when I had Hurricane, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna call the album the Hurricane, but I was gonna like make something like look like a geographic map, like a hurricane going like make landfall or something. That's the only thing that came in my mind. One night I was watching SmackDown, and then next thing you know, I hear, stay in the back, there's a hurricane coming through. And I said, okay, that's my idea. I'm gonna make an album cover. Made it out of construction paper. I made a little dude. I made as best as I could, made him look like the Hurricane. He had like a little black attire on, black cape, standing on a moon. I had like made a little earth in the background, and I named the album The Hurricane. And then in the back, I started off the paragraph with "Stay in the back, there's a hurricane coming through." And I'm talking about the album. Well, they liked it. I got an A for the project, but I got an A+ for the start of that headline. She gave me a big A+ for that start. She goes, "That's a unique way to start the description."
If you could find that somewhere, if you still have it, you need to put that up on the social media.
Oh, that thing's probably somewhere deep in the ground in the garbage somewhere. This was back in 2001. Oh, I wish I still had some of them projects. Oh, I'd find it.
That's awesome.
I'd show it to you and everything. It was cool, neato. Yeah, that's how I got the name of that. But that plus the theme song, like, I think he was trying to portray Superman. Like, he'd walk around with a tape recorder, acting like he Clark Kent.
Yeah.
I even had, when I subscribed to WWF Magazine, I had one of them, like, folded out posters that's sideways, and it's, like, 4 different shots of Gregory where he's, like doing that, then taking the glasses off, ripping the suit off. You see the Hurricane H, and then the next is, like, him doing his pose. Like, it was portraying Superman. I wish I still had that thing, too.
That's an awesome gimmick. Like, I always thought that it was one of those funny gimmicks that got over. And like, if you remember, like he feuded with The Rock with that gimmick, and
he beat The Rock with that gimmick.
He beat The Rock with that gimmick. Yeah, I remember there was like a battle royal or something, and he eliminated The Rock. So really, really cool gimmick. I always liked the Hurricane.
Oh, what a battle royal! Austin cost him a match. He was getting ready to feud with Austin at WrestleMania, and he had a 1-on-1 match. Hurricane beat him. Then when they had that battle royal to go to WrestleMania, he eliminated Hurricane. Got eliminated by The Rock because Rock was the last to get eliminated by Booker T. That's how Booker won that battle royal to go face Triple H.
That's right. Yeah.
But the theme songs, yeah, like he finally had that new theme where it actually sounds like a superhero theme, which is pretty cool. The one he had before, the freaking song on the main menu of White Chicks, really? I was like, I'll never forget that theme.
Yeah, they just got whatever stock theme that they could get that was royalty free, probably, and threw it on there.
Yeah, but if I could be serious for a minute, Lance Storm and Hurricane were mainly double teaming the Hardys. Like, you gotta give Storm credit; he's a hell of a competitor. At one point, Hurricane did a crossbody, but he had his cape on. Molly put the cape on, and he did the crossbody, taking all of them out, plus Lance Storm. Then Lito was taking out Molly and Ivory at one point, 1-on-2. Lance hits Jeff, locks Jeff in the Canadian Maple Leaf at one point before Lita hit a Lita Karana. By the way, Jeff Hardy did the little double stomp, except hit her right in the clit. She's got no balls. She's selling it like if she got hit in the testicles. Matt hits a twist of fate on Helms. Jeff hits a swanton. Matt pins him. 1, 2, 3. Hardys retain the tag titles. Exciting way. Hot start to kick off No Mercy.
I agree. It was definitely a fun matchup with, a hot crowd. And yeah, the Hardy Boys had great chemistry with Hurricane. Like I said, they all came up together in North Carolina with Omega. I thought that it was funny because Lance Storm stood out in this matchup, especially by being the only guy who was not from Omega and from North Carolina. But Lance Storm was leaps and bounds, the best wrestler in this matchup, best pure wrestler. And I always wish that Lance Storm got more of a push in the WWE. I feel like once Stone Cold called him boring, that was it. Everyone just thought of him as a boring wrestler. But the Lance Storm from WCW and ECW was a lot more compelling, and I always wanted to see that Lance Storm in the WWE. And I think the closest we got to that was Lance Storm in this era during the Invasion. But a very good matchup. It's just so weird to see Hardy Boys being called the WCW Tag Team Champions and seeing them come out with the WCW Tag titles. But really good start to the show.
Who did they I should have looked it up. Didn't they beat Chronic for those titles?
I think it was either Chronic or it was Palumbo and Sean O'Hare.
Because I remember Kane and Undertaker had them. They beat Canyon and DDP at SummerSlam. In that cage match, they had both sets of titles. Then they lost the WWF tag titles to the Dudleys. They lost the WC tag titles, like I said, to either the Natural Born Thrillers. That's what their name was, O'Hare and Palumbo, or Chronic. So I remember they faced Chronic and Unforgiven, but they beat them. I didn't remember if they had another match or two. I didn't remember, but
yeah,
that's how they had them. Well, then RVD arrives. he's the hardcore champion, which I don't know if he just won it back or he'd been keeping it for a while. Because I remember at one point the title, he had that feud with Jeff Hardy for the title, and I think he lost it a time or two. I remember once Angle won the hardcore title, and then he won it back for like a few seconds later. I don't know if that was before this pay-per-view or after, but I remember Angle once had it for like not even 60 seconds, courtesy of Stone Cold. But RVD arrived, Regal waits for him, which I remember him as the commissioner, but he was technically the commissioner of the Alliance at the time, because yes, he did join the Alliance after SummerSlam, and brings up saying like, are you here to apologize to what you did to Stone Cold on SmackDown? Hitting him with the 5-star, and he's like, no. And he's like, I'd watch my back with what you want to do out there. And RVD is just focused about trying to become WWF champion in like his 3rd or 4th pay-per-view since he joined the company in the summer of 2001. But then we get the arrival of Vince McMahon, and I keep forgetting that sometimes Vince McMahon's like very popular, and I'm like, I haven't heard the crowd pop that big for Vince in God, I don't know how long. A young Michael Cole waiting there. He goes to put his blazer on, but he drops it. Drops his blazer. Vince saying he's going to make an impact tonight. He's going to, he's here tonight to make an impact. Michael Cole, if you drop my jacket again, I'm going to drop you. That's always funny. That could mean anything. Either he could beat his ass or lose his job. Like, I don't know what he meant by I'm going to drop you.
It was weird seeing a young Michael Cole like being the backstage correspondent. But yeah, Vince McMahon got a huge pop when he came out of his limo. That was something.
Yeah, anytime between 98 to 2001, you'll see Michael Cole backstage.
Yeah, no, for sure. I remember he used to have really good chemistry with The Rock when The Rock would just like mess with him backstage.
Oh, yeah. I don't know who I enjoyed more out of him, Coach, or Kevin Kelly. He would fucking antagonize.
Yeah.
Like, that's the top 3. Imagine if he would do that to like a Josh Matthews or whatnot. Like, I'm trying to think some other people down the road he could insult and be funny as hell. Like, I'm waiting for the day he would insult Dominic Mysterio, since the final boss will be back on TV soon.
Yeah, no, that definitely could happen, and he would have a field day with Dominic Mysterio.
I can't fucking wait. He gonna shit talk the Judgment Day. Shit talk. I'm waiting to see who he's gonna target next. Well, we get Tess versus Kane. Very underrated match. This got started on one night on SmackDown. Tess and Booker T were at a tag match with the Brothers of Destruction. Undertaker was going for a last ride to Booker before Tess hit the big boot, and Booker T pinned the Undertaker, won the tag match. Kane got mad, like, you're not going to attack my brother. Led to this, like, impromptu match. Somehow Kane was just so jacked up at this time.
Yeah, Kane was a monster. Like, no pun intended, but I feel like this was, like, the biggest he ever was. He was huge in this matchup.
It's one of my favorite versions of Kane, like, with the attire, with the sleeveless attire, the mask, the theme, the fire, Titantron. Same Kane that was in them.
Kane was awesome.
Same Kane that was in those Chef Boyardee commercials.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, this was a really good matchup too. A good big man matchup, and I forgot that during this era, Tess got a lot of big spots too. Tess was a very underrated big man.
And Kane returning back to where it all began. He made his debut in that same building back in '97. 4 years, returning back where it started. Plus, we got to talk about. Well, they're striking back and forth. Once an elbow drop, Kane hits a corner clothesline and a power slam. Well, at one point, Tess grabs the ring bell. He hits Kane with it, but the referee, which is Nick Patrick, don't call for DQ or nothing. But that's how Nick Patrick was during this time, when he would call a match that involved somebody from the Alliance against the WWF. He would kind of just let them do what they want, but not let the WWF do what they want. And that's just how he was.
He played that heel character very well. Like, you would hate, if you were a pro team WWF and in the crowd, like, you would hate Nick Patrick. He was very, very antagonizing, and he always made it known like he was just a crooked ref, which he played that character so well.
I'll never forget that referee match with Earl Hebner. Like,
I just covered it on the Invasion. Gosh, man, I would never get back. Even though it was a short little match, I'll never get back those 5 minutes.
I enjoyed it. I loved how the referees were fighting in the ringside, and I don't remember who it was, Jack Dome or Mike Chioda. Somebody speared freaking Lil Nate out off his boots, and I'm like, look at the fucking referees fight. Hell yeah.
If you remember, what's funny about that matchup was the special referee was Mick Foley. So you had a matchup between referees, and the referee was a wrestler
who competed on all three brands.
Yeah,
he was respected on all three brands. So it made sense to have Mick. He called it 50-50, but he kind of gave the WWF a better advantage because he refereed 2 matches that night. Surprisingly, refereed the Divas match and got the win for Team WWF that night too.
Yeah.
Well, at one point, Kane ran into the post, then a big boot, but Kane hit a choke slam for a near fall. Test countered that flying clothesline into a pump handle slam for a near fall. Well, Test goes and grabs a steel chair. Kane dropped Kane. Never seen Kane do a drop kick in my life. Like, it wasn't the best, but I'll buy it. It was not bad for a guy that's 300 plus pounds.
For sure. Yeah. Very athletic.
Well, and Tess's mouth is busted wide open anyhow. Well, he grabs the steel chair, but Nick Patrick takes it away, and he's like, no, you can't. You're not using it. Well, Kane gets furious, so he goes to choke slam him, but Tess comes and he grabs both, shoves Nick Patrick out the way, which no matter if he was seeing or not, people didn't catch that in the corner of their eye. Tess low blowed him, kicked him in the dick, and then hit that running boot and got the 1, 2, 3. I'm shocked Nick Patrick didn't do a super fast count. He did a normal count. Tess wins. Kane's furious. He hits 2 choke slams and a power bomb. And I'm like, I see the pyro things in the corner. I'm like, raise your arms and do it. But he kept getting out, and he's like, he goes back to hits another choke slam, then a power bomb, and then it's like he just did it so fast. Then it finally happened. I'm like, okay, that finally happened, and it made no sense. You had that shit taped in the corners, and you're not going to use this pyro.
Yeah, no, for sure. One thing I liked about this matchup that stood out was they were building up Test's big boot as the best big boot in wrestling. And when he finally did hit it, even though he hit a low blow before it, it was able to keep down Kane, who is a former champion at this point. So, I mean, I do give kudos to them trying to build new stars and guys like Test for this angle. But yeah, it was cool to see Kane finally, get revenge on Nick Patrick and take him out. So I like it, but I am happy that they were trying to at least build Test as a monster himself.
Yeah. All right. Can we go to one of, if not the most dumbest and most hilarious backstage interviews ever that just didn't need to happen. What happened didn't need to happen, but it was hilarious. Coach trying to get an interview with Stone Cold. Deborah comes out and she's like, well, he's not in the mood, but she goes, and he's like, he must have been right at the door because
you hear his voice right there.
He hollered so loud. Coach is right there, can hear him clear, but Deborah still had to repeat herself, but make it PG. But she's like, do you want to talk with Coach? He's like, no, I don't want to talk to him, but you can tell him I said Kurt Angle was a sorry son of a bitch. And she's like, he wanted me to tell you he don't want to talk to you, but he thinks Kurt Angle is a sorry SOB. Then he's like, you can also tell him I think RVD is a big piece of trash. As far as Vince McMahon's concerned, he's a bigger piece of trash than RVD, and there ain't no way I'm going to lose my WWF title. She corrected her grammar and said, there's no way he's going to lose his WWF title. And he's like, tell him thank you and get his ass out of here. It's like, get your butt out of here.
Get your butt out of here.
That was pointless having Deborah repeat it because we can hear it loud and clearly, but it was kind of fucking funny.
I thought it was funny the way that she was trying to block all his curses and like censor him. But yeah, this was pointless. Pretty pointless.
Eli said Kane's powerbomb back then was so slick and Test should have had a world. Yeah, I mean, he did have the U.S. title at one point, but yeah, he should have been a world champion. Hell, WWE should have gave him like a better run. Like he was Intercontinental champion one time. Yeah, European champion. I seen him win the European title in Lafayette before. Well, here comes. Oh my god. Oh man. All right, Stacy Keibler, son of a bitch. Oh, Stacy Keibler's getting ready for a first ever. Well, she runs into Matt Hardy, and we've seen this before. She tried to get with one of the Hardys at one time. It didn't work out. she got lucky. She decided to give Matt a little sneak peek, like, what do you think of my lingerie? And then Matt's just like easily hitting that, and then they got almost busted by Lita, which was kind of funny. Like when he hugged her, he like looked away and like, ooh,
Lita's like, what are you looking at? What's going on?
So we get ready for a first here. We get Tori Wilson versus Stacy Keibler in the first ever lingerie match. And I thought this was going to be some special type of match. No, they're just wrestling in lingerie. The setting was weird. You saw that little like freaking sheet they had up in the Raptors. I thought that was like supposed to be a part of the match.
Yeah, me too. I didn't know if they were going to like drop it and it was going to be like over the ring or something, because when they zoomed out and you saw that sheet, I was like, is this a part of the lingerie match? And why are they like showing that? But yeah, it was just a normal matchup in a normal ring.
You realize they pulled that down after that match, because when it was the ladder match and move on, it wasn't up there anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's just to put some shading and some sexiness into that match. I don't
gotta set the scene.
Well,
I don't know.
Remember, Tori and Stacy were in WCW together. They came into the WWF together. Well, Tori starts dating Tajiri, who I shocked was never joined the alliance, because he was a guy in ECW, but now he stayed loyal to the WWF.
Yeah, now he was there to the end. For the last ever ECW show, he was in the tag match for the tag titles.
Now, I don't remember when Tori jumped to WWF. I think once she started dating Tajiri, Stacy didn't like it. Stacy tried to kiss Tajiri one night on Raw, and Tori took her down. But it cost Tajiri a match he was in with Taz. Well, it led to the point where I did like it. Stacy Keibler aligned herself with the Dudley Boys, became the Duchess of Dudleyville, which I fucking loved it.
I love that gimmick too. Yeah, no, it just it looked like they all fit together too. Like when the Dudleys would come out and Stacy would be their manager.
I loved it. Like, it made me love the Dudley Boys even more because it's fucking Stacy Keibler. Like, Tori is good looking. Yeah, she was in Playboy. She's got what you need for that, but it's something about Stacy.
I would agree with that 100%.
Stacy's like that girl next door to me.
I agree. I agree.
Like my first diva love was Trish. I mean, she was my first love, and then it's like Stacy was just a fucking home run. Like, I was in fucking love with that girl till she left the company.
Yeah, and then wasn't she married to George Clooney?
I think, or she might.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't care if she couldn't wrestle. She wasn't a good wrestler, but she was just eye candy to me. Despite if Vince fucking raped her or not, if she was Vince's personal assistant or she managed the Dudleys, she had a thing with Orton. She once was with Hurricane and Rosie at one time. Paired up with them for a short bit. Stacy was just so nice to look at. I didn't give a shit if she couldn't wrestle.
Yeah, and you know what? There was a couple spots. I know this was mostly like a cat fight, right? But there was a couple spots in this matchup where I was pretty impressed. Like the sunset flip that Tori Wilson did, that was like picture perfect. And I was like, wow, I don't remember her ever doing that. But, it played its purpose. And for this time period, at the time, this is 2001, I was 7 years old. So, when watching this, I remember for a lot of these matches, my parents would monitor this and be like, all right, we're going to switch the channel. And I don't get to see like the divas until like I'm older. But watching this back, this is probably the first time I've ever seen it because like I said, we would switch the channel for the divas, which sucked. But yeah, I mean, there was some spots that was pretty good.
Well, I remembered her as Miss Hancock. Like, that's when I noticed how sexy she was getting. And I mean, even though I didn't really watch WCW a lot when it started going downhill, but it's like if she popped up on TV, I'm gonna check her out. Then I was so glad she came into the WWF. And then I fucking loved her even more. So this was like a first. So it's like, well, it's not like your typical bra and panties match or whatever. No, they're fighting in lingerie. It's basically a cat fight. Well, Stacy comes out. Well, she takes one robe off. She has this other one on, and we're thinking, okay, let's see the rest. I want to see what the fuck she got on. Tori Wilson come out, and fucking JR's like, oh, I love that Oklahoma red, whatever. Tori ain't gonna hesitate. She takes the heels off. She takes the silk nightgown top off. We see hers. like, okay, Stacy, come on. Well, after a couple cartwheels, we get a little tease at the bottom. Like, oh shit. Well, then when she finally got, let's just say I discovered a new upper body workout after I saw this over and over and over again.
It was definitely probably a highlight for the pay-per-view for sure. What up, Ivan? Thank you so much, man.
Well, I would fight for Stacy Keibler.
Stacy Keibler was in that company for a long time, and she always found a way to be relevant. I gotta applaud that for sure. It's good, chef.
Then she pulls like a little whip out of her like cleavage. She's whipping her, and then Jack Dome got whipped, which was funny. She smacked it, and they're like, "Oh, Jack Dome's the luckiest man in the world, or he hit the ref lottery. He gets to call this match." Hell, they were rolling over him, and he.
I was gonna say, did you see when he was like on the floor and like they were like having a cat fight and rolled over him?
I'll never get all those near falls after near falls, like about 5 or 6 consecutive near falls, and like them rolling each other over, rolling here, rolling there, which was an iconic moment.
But like I said, it was during that little sequence where Tori Wilson hit that like picture perfect sunset flip into the
she pulled it to Tajiri and hit that like handspring elbow.
Yeah,
like, oh, look at Tori Wilson go. She learned that from Tajiri.
It was less of an elbow, more of just like a little, nudge, but
like a backwards bump. But I'll take it. Like I just want to see Stacy Keibler in lingerie, and I did. And I don't know if they had any more lingerie matches after that. I've seen like evening gown matches, pillow fights. There wasn't really that many lingerie matches, but that one will always be iconic.
This was the era of like the bra and panties matches, and so it was like the opposite. Instead of you lose when you're in your lingerie, they would have them just wrestle in their lingerie.
Look, at 12 years old, that was all the time I needed. Well, then here comes Michael Cole's backstage talking to Kurt. Kurt's trying to stay focused, and he's like, "Am I going to win the WWF title tonight? Oh, it's true." And then he starts like, "Oh, hell yeah, it's true," or "It's Van Dam true." Well, then Vince comes in there, and he's like wishing Kurt Angle good luck. He's saying he's guaranteeing that Stone Cold was not walking out WWF champion tonight. But we didn't know what was going to happen. Then Christian gets interviewed by Lillian Garcia. Christian!
I love that theme.
I love that theme more. I love that more than the female version of Don't Close Your Eyes or the one he had in 2004, where it's like, I like this one the best.
It's funny. I'm watching this matchup, and my wife walks into the room, and she like looks at the screen like, "What the hell is this?" It's just Christian. At last, you're on your own.
I've heard that song in person twice, and it was awesome. Even saw it with the pyro, the little
with the raining pyro, which was always awesome.
Yeah, the Randy Orton raining pyro sparks, whatever you want to call it. He's getting interviewed by Lillian Garcia, and he's saying how when him and Edge were a tag team, they were the best, but they always said Edge was better and I was secondhand, but they're going to find out that I'm the best. And then they're in St. Louis that night. He's like, remember Mark McGuire was one of the best hitters until a guy like Barry Bonds broke his record, or saying how the Cardinals used to be a good team until a team like the Diamondbacks eliminated them in the divisional series. Like, just to piss off the St. Louis crowd, because that's
getting that cheap heat.
Yeah. No peeps yet. Don't think he was Father of the Year yet. I think he was still like in his mid-20s at the time.
No turtleneck yet.
Yeah, he still had the little like see-through like
fishnet type
tank top with his pants. But we get this. We get Edge versus Christian in a ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. By the way, people, they are not real brothers. This is like a Kane Undertaker thing. I hate how they keep saying, "Oh, it's brother versus brother." These two grew up together. If you never saw before they were WWE Superstars Volume 1, that's where kayfabe broke to me. It's like they were never brothers in real life. They met in the 6th grade and became best friends. So every time I hear Jim Ross or King saying, "Oh, it's brother versus brother," their parents got to be loving this. We've never seen anything like this before.
A bullshit. A bullshit. A bullshit. A bullshit.
They tried that with Kane and Undertaker, and that was a fail.
Yeah, nah, it was weird. They're pushing this whole thing. I believe they at one point said that the grandmother loved Christian more or some shit, and it was like, come on, you had a good storyline, just as these former tag team champions split up, and one feels like he's better than the other, but they went with the whole brother thing. But I mean, regardless, this was a hell of a ladder match, really good ladder match.
The feud, like I said, Edge was probably one of his biggest years ever. Edge won King of the Ring. He won the Intercontinental title. I think that was his second reign at the time when he beat Lance Storm at SummerSlam. And then Christian turned on him because of jealousy. They had a match at Unforgiven, which Christian beat Edge. Christian was the champion. And Christian made up a false lie saying that their mom had an accident, and then he's like, why didn't they call me? Then they ran into I think it was Canyon and two other guys, I think Stasiak or something, or Palumbo or Sean O'Hare. And then Christian jumped him from behind, and he's like, well, there was an accident. Pulled a Vince McMahon 27 years ago when mom gave birth to you. You mean your best friend's mom? That's not your real mom.
Your best friend's mom. But this was also the era where Edge came out to the Rob Zombie song, and I forgot that he had that song. That was a really good entrance song for him. I like his current one, but the Never Gonna Stop Me, that's a really good theme. Oh yeah, that's my favorite theme.
Both of them had my favorite themes at the time. Rob Zombie's Never Gonna Stop, and then Christian's little Phantom of the Opera theme, whatever you want to call it. The play theme. Every time I see those little masks on the Titantron, they look like Mardi Gras masks to me.
No, yeah, it was funny because I was explaining all this to my wife because she's looking like, what's this gimmick? Like he has these masks and all that. I was like, to be honest, the mask don't mean nothing. It's just his entrance video.
Let's put it this way: if you're gonna have a ladder match for the Intercontinental title, you better tune in because those two together go together.
Of course.
If you want to think of, I'd put it in the top 5 greatest ladder matches for the IC title. I'd put it up there with Triple H and The Rock. I'd put it up there with Razor and Shawn Michaels. I'm sure I'd put it with that 5-way or 6-way at WrestleMania. It's up there.
No, yeah, of course. This was a very good matchup. And if you think about what these two guys did with ladder matches even before this, they were the winners of the TLC. They were the winners of that triple ladder match at WrestleMania 2000. They won the TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17. So they were very well versed in ladder matches. So now to have them go against each other in a ladder match was just perfect.
Well, this was also one of 3 or 4 matches there where they start fighting in the rampway. Where it starts, and then they're fighting in the crowd at a time. Well, both started using the ladder as a weapon. I remember Edge kind of pulled something he did in the past. He hit a spear off the top turnbuckle while Christian was climbing the ladder. Edge also did a diving splash across it. But what made it so amazing how it ended, he had Christian laid on a chair on top of one ladder. He was on top of another and hit a concerto.
Yeah,
and
from
he just rode off. He just rode off and won I think that was his 3rd IC title, 3rd or 4th.
There was another moment right before that where Christian's climbing 2 ladders at once, so his legs are split, and he goes in with the chair and goes right up the uprights and hits him in the balls, which was a funny spot there too. But yeah, the concerto from on top of the ladder was pretty cool.
But I'll make a decision by the end of the night. But this was one of 3 matches I thought was match of the night.
Yeah, so far, when I saw this, I was like, so far this is match of the night because they put on a really good matchup.
Yeah. Paul Heyman even referenced the joke I think it was for Tess and Kane's match. Saying, the referee didn't see that. Saying, no, he was looking at my cap. You like it? I forgot he had a Stone Cold cap on. One side was red, the other side was black. So Paul Heyman was on his game. Him and JR were a good commentary team for that short time. But Paul Heyman can master anything with a microphone.
Yeah, I agree. I always love Paul Heyman and JR on commentary during this era. I think if you look at shows like WrestleMania 17, where they were the commentary team, Paul Heyman really carried that show, and JR is amazing. He's a legend, but Paul Heyman always held his own and was able to, like you said, adapt to any situation he's in and master it.
It wasn't until we got towards the invasion angle when we discovered the whole time Paul Heyman was the guy, ECW guy. Like,
yeah,
when he first came, we were like, who's this guy? This is just a random dude, but he was good. And then whenever the ECW Crusaders came in and he aligned with them, and then we were like, okay, maybe he's the guy that owned ECW. We thought we figured it out. And I remember we rented, back in the old Blockbuster days, we rented a couple of ECW VHSs, and then sure enough, we discovered Paul Heyman was the owner of ECW.
Yeah, no, that I remember when he came in, even I believe his first night on the job, that Raw where he made his debut, he was wearing an ECW hat, which was pretty cool too.
And then I think I also figured it out whenever I got WrestleMania 17 on VHS. He said it at the beginning. He goes, when he's talking about being at his first WrestleMania, he says, I'm not here as a fan, not as Paulie Dangerously, not as the owner of ECW. And I'm like, okay, he was the owner of ECW. Yeah.
Yeah. And a fun fact, and it's a little weird, but ECW was still running shows when Paul Heyman showed up on Raw. When he became the commentator of Raw, ECW was still, I think, a couple shows away from their last show. So the last couple shows of ECW, Paul Heyman wasn't a part of it because he was on Raw, but ECW wasn't fully dead when Paul Heyman made his debut.
Yeah. Well, speaking of ECW, we had another ECW original. He's there at WWF in New York, taking shots, drinking draft beer. We had Spike Dudley, which I don't know if he was curing a concussion or something, because a couple weeks prior, that spot where Bubba and Devon literally threw him out of the ring and went to go through two tables, but he landed on one and his head bounced off that steel ramp.
Yeah.
And we
Spike
haven't
Dudley took
seen
a couple
lately.
nasty bumps. Yeah.
I've said before, Spike Dudley was the Darby Allin of 2001.
100%. Even before that, like some of the things that he did in ECW was just insane. Like, why would you allow someone to just toss you to a concrete floor and you're just going to take an unprotected back bump? Like, I remember, what was it? Like La Resistance, they did like a double, team move to the outside and he smacked the back of his head on the table. Spike Dudley took some nasty bumps in his career.
Yeah, well, he's like taking shot. Looked like he was probably shooting tequila or something, because he had the salt and the lime, so he must have been shooting tequila. He had a draft beer. Judging by how light that beer looked, it was probably a Bud Light or a Miller Lite. I don't know. Well, Paul Heyman's like asking him dumb questions. Well, he cuts Paul Heyman off. He looks, there comes this freaking smoking. Y'all got some fine ass women in New York. This black-haired girl, probably a fan, I don't know, just come talk to Spike. And Paul's like, hello? He's like, oh, I'm sorry, Paul, I can't hear you. Molly who? And I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah, this is right after Molly dumped him for Hurricane. So
she wanted to be a superhero.
Yep. And I guess he rebounded pretty well.
Yeah, I didn't see him walk away with her. Like, he was just still sitting at the bar.
Yeah.
But it was funny. And then Paul's like pissed to try to get an interview on about how's he feeling after get that concussion.
He's like, Spike, I'm talking to you. And he was like, oh, I'm a little occupied here.
Oh, yeah. Well, then speaking of Dudleys, next up we get the Dudley Boys taking on the unusual team of Big Show and Tajiri for the WWF Tag Team Championships. I don't remember, how did Tajiri find a partner like the Big Show? But I know
it did seem like a mismatched team.
I know how it all came about. You also go back to the Tori Stacy feud. Whenever Stacy formed with the Dudleys, she gave an order. Bubba Ray went back to his Glorio days and powerbombing women through tables, and he got Tori Wilson powerbombed through a table. That led to their match. Led to Tajiri wanting to get revenge on that, and then somehow he started teaming with the Big Show, which, I mean, weird pairing. You thought maybe he'd have a chance to win the titles.
Yeah, and also if you look at the Big Show and Tajiri, they also could have been members of the Alliance. Like you said earlier, Tajiri a part of ECW, Big Show started in WCW, the Giant. So they did have a weird pairing. I just feel like for a tag title matchup, and you have a team like the Dudley Boys, there was no other two people you could put together. There was no tag team that was not on that show. We could have had a regular tag team. Instead, it just seemed like two guys that they threw together.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say it was the worst match of the night, but there was some good and bad in that match. I mean, the Dudleys didn't skip a beat. Tajiri, though, inadvertently sprayed the mist in the referee's eyes. He was going to spray it in Bubba Ray's. And then he gets chokeslammed by the Big Show. And then out of nowhere, here comes Rhino. Hit a gore on Big Show. Paul Heyman, gore. But he gets rolled out of the ring for that. And then Devon and Tajiri are in the ring. And then Tajiri made one error, led to a 3D. Dudley's retain. I mean, it was not a very bad match, but it was actually, I take this not a least interesting match, but it wasn't the worst match of the night. A lot of people will say the lingerie match was the worst match of the night. I'm saying no, because I was super fucking horny watching both them women. I gave it a pass. You look at it now, it's like, okay, that is a shitty match. It was basically a cat fight, but
yeah. If Joey Styles was there, he would be screeching at the top of his lungs.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, this matchup was on a card with really good matches. Like, this probably was the weaker match of the night, but I still enjoyed it. I liked the moment where Rhino came in and hit the gore, especially, him with the Dudley Boys. Like you said, at this point, the Alliance didn't have many originals from ECW and WCW. So I thought that was a nice little shine to give a ECW original a spot with the Alliance, or keep them, relevant with the Alliance. Dudley Boys retaining was cool. I'm a big Dudleys fan, so I'm always going to be happy when the Dudleys retain. But like I said, I just wish they were up against two other guys than this like makeshift team between Tajiri and Big Show. It looked very mismatched.
Yeah. Well, then Rhino gets greeted by William Regal, saying, nice work out there. But Rhino's like, well, I'm here to make a statement that we're not a joke, and I'll take on anyone, take out anyone. Remember, he's also the United States champion at the time. People keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
Well, then we go to Booker T getting prepared for his match. He's getting hyped up by Shane McMahon, and then there's Tess back there saying he took care of the Kane problem. We got the Undertaker next, and you're gonna see the most electrifying move in sports entertainment, the Spinneroonie. And Booker T was a little goofy when he first got into the WWF. I mean, yeah, his first pay-per-view in the main event, but it's like after that he went on this like long ass losing streak. After that, like, lost at SummerSlam to The Rock, lost at Unforgiven. This match, Survivor Series, he don't have lost at got eliminated in the Rumble in like 30 seconds at number 30, lost at WrestleMania 18. Booker T had like this long stretch of losing pay-per-view matches after Invasion. But
yeah, and it was a shame because if you remember, he was the last WCW champion. He came into this Invasion angle as the WCW champion, and we keep saying there was a lack of star power on that WCW side. You would think that they will have booked Booker T to be this strong character or this strong wrestler because he was probably their biggest star. That was an WCW original. So I don't know. I feel like the booking of Booker T, I think Sting once said in an interview that the booking of Booker T and how WWE treated Booker T was one of the reasons why he didn't come in to the WWE right away, because he felt like they were clearly showing that the WCW wrestlers were below the WWE wrestlers.
Plus, you want to talk about an odd pairing. When you want to think of pairing a black man and a white man together, you got your Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith. You got your Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. You got those guys.
You got your Bubba Ray and Devon.
You got your Bubba Ray and Devon. Yeah. You got your Damian Wayans and Adam Sandler. If you love Bulletproof.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got Booker T and Shane, the punk ass sucker and the silver spoon motherfucker, according to The Rock. Booker T hair done by Whoopi. Shane McMahon still a pussy. Shane was like just too hype. Be like, oh, I got a black man for a friend. Like I could be the hype man. I like get a book. Like you're gonna get the book. Booker T's rock bottom is called the book end.
Yep.
What kind of fucking name was that?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
He had a lot of shitty names. The Houston Go Round or whatever. Wasn't that one of his
Houston Hangover?
Houston Hangover, yeah. I was thinking of the Molly Go Round.
I like that name, by the way.
Houston Hangover. Can I come up with something better than just the scissor kick? Like, come on.
They didn't have a name for the scissors kick. They just called it that. Now, I'm a Booker T fan. Like, I loved him in WCW.
I love Booker T.
He was raised in Houston, but he was born in Louisiana. People keep forgetting that. Booker T was born in Louisiana, lived there till he was 8 years old. Then after his mother passed, then he moved to Houston. Yep. Grew up in Houston. And so they're like, it's Houstonian versus Houstonian. His Undertaker is also from Houston, Texas. There really wasn't no build up for this. It's just Booker T was just like a goofy. But yeah, Booker T was the last WCW champion when WCW closed its doors and Nitro went off the air. But they're going to still say Jericho was the last champion when they unified the big gold belt with the WWF title because he had it last because he beat The Rock again. Yeah. But I'll still relate to Booker T as the final WCW champion when the company went down, not during this invasion angle in WWE's storyline.
Yeah, no. Also, I believe he was also the TV champion at the time, or the United States champion.
He was the U.S. champion.
Yeah, he had both titles as they went out.
He had both titles, and then at one point he relinquished it and gave it to Canyon.
Yeah,
and then Canyon lost it to Kurt. Kurt lost it to Lance Storm, and Lance Storm lost it to Edge. No. Wrong belt. Fuck. I'm thinking of the Intercontinental title. No. Canyon lost that belt to Kurt. Kurt lost it to Rhino. Yeah, I was thinking of the IC title. So my mistake.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think, to use a video game reference, right? Do you think at this point in the invasion angle, was the Undertaker OP? Was he overpowered? Because Undertaker would be squashing these alliance members left and right. Like what they did to Chronic was, disgusting. What he destroyed Diamond Dallas Page and Canyon. Like, was he just burying all the WCW guys coming in?
Let's just say in this storyline, if you want to compare it to like a video game, Undertaker's overall rating was like maybe a 96, and anybody from the invasion was like 70 or lower.
He was destroying everybody.
He destroyed everyone. I don't think Booker T gave him a heck of a match, but there's just something about that match that I felt like it was so off.
Yeah, I wrote that down too when I was watching this. It did seem like if anybody on the Alliance team actually took the fight to Taker, it was Booker T. He did give him, Booker T got a lot of offense in this matchup. But yeah, it had a weird pacing to it. I don't know if it was the pacing or the match placement. It just felt, like you said, off. It didn't feel like it ever picked up to the next level.
I think it was Taker's leather pants that had me off.
Maybe.
Like Booker T had him back to the corner, hitting those shots, and then that's how it ended. He caught him with the last ride, and that was it. Taker got the win, and Taker's last No Mercy win until 2006 because he went on like a 4-year losing streak at No Mercy.
Yeah, no, that's true. Did you like this version of Undertaker? I know a lot of people hated the American Badass, but
I liked it. I liked it at first, but it's like when he went to like that big red, when they changed the theme to "You're Gonna Pay," then I hate it.
Yeah. No, yeah. If it wasn't, Kid Rock with the American Badass song or the Limp Bizkit Rollin', like that was my favorite American Badass.
As much as a Kid Rock fan I am, I rather Rollin' than.
Oh no, Rollin' fit perfectly. And I used to love when we had the Brothers of Destruction. And you'd have like the cane opening, and then once that fire hits, Rollin' would start.
Yeah,
that was awesome. I like this version of Taker, but yeah, I think like a year later or 2 years later, when they go with Big Evil or Big Red or whatever, yeah, that's when it starts to get a little boring. And I'm glad that they did bring back the Dark Side Undertaker after that.
it was good as a babyface, but when he went heel at the end of 01 to early 2002, then I started slowly not liking the gimmick anymore. When he cut his hair, he just looked like a douchebag. He looked like a Fred Durst Undertaker.
Which is ironic because he became Fred Durst Undertaker and then dropped the Fred Durst song.
Yeah.
They went with the WWE generic.
Yeah, Jim Johnson, you're going to pay. I hated that fucking song with a passion.
Yeah, that's a big drop off. You go from Limp Bizkit Rollin', which was a huge hit, to just a Jim Johnson song.
Limp Bizkit was one of the biggest punk rock bands in the late 90s, early 2000s. When I'm telling you, when Nookie dropped in 99, that put them on the map.
Dude, because of Limp Bizkit is when I start to wear my hat backwards like this all the time. I still do it. Like,
I've always wore hat backwards. I was wearing hat backwards when I discovered Eminem, or I was wearing my hats forward with a hoodie on because of Eminem.
Yeah, I still do that too. Still a big Eminem fan.
And then Jericho's bet to get ready for his match. Jericho with those fucking long sideburns like The Rock. Why? I didn't like the sideburns. I hated them.
Not only that, but Jericho's gear looked like the old Shawn Michaels DX gear.
Yeah,
with the X's.
He's getting ready for his match with The Rock. Coach tried to get a quick interview, and he's like, no, I'm about to go finally win the big one, which he never won a world, which people still never counted that WWF title he won in 2000, and then like 40 minutes later, he had to give it back to Triple H. They still count it, but I don't count it.
No. If you have to give it back and hand it back and not lose it, if you have to hand it back, then you can't count that.
Yeah.
Especially if it's on the same show that you won it.
Mm-hmm. So we get Chris Jericho versus The Rock for the WCW Championship. This came about one night on Raw. They were in a tag match against Booker T and RVD. Rock went to hit, I think it was RVD with a chair, and he moved and caught the Rock with it. And RVD scored a pin on The Rock. I was big for RVD.
Yeah,
and
really big.
Jericho's getting 10-2 backstage, and then The Rock. I'm figuring this out just now because it's like I was so big on The Rock in the Attitude Era. He was my guy. But when I went back and watched the video package for this, The Rock was a fucking dickhead in 2001 when he came back from Hollywood.
He definitely was. No, The Rock took the antics all to another level. But yeah, I feel like, especially in this period, this is where going into 2002, where The Rock started to be phased into, even though he was
Hollywood.
The champion, he was more into the Hollywood, but I feel like you started to see other guys step up, where the two big names a couple years prior to this was Stone Cold and The Rock. You started to see more names get to that main event level, and it did feel like The Rock felt like he had to constantly bring something out or, start a new catchphrase or something to keep himself relevant, because other people were starting to get to the level he was on. Triple H, Jericho, Shawn Michaels returns, Hogan's, returning. So I felt like this was around this area, and then probably more a year after this, where The Rock starts to, fall into the background.
Well, he questioned Jericho, saying, it's like what The Rock just said. He goes, you know what? I should have just knocked the people's eyebrow off the people's face. And he's like, well, why don't you knock it off right now? And then they got into a brawl in the trainers area, which led to, and Jericho won a number one contenders match, beating Rob Van Dam on SmackDown during this shot. So we're getting two WWF guys. And I was thinking somewhere down the road, Jericho would eventually join the alliance, but he never did. He stuck with WWF, even though he was a heel.
Yeah. And, also another guy who had lineage in both WCW and ECW.
Yeah. Well, it was, this match went back and forth. There's a lot of countering maneuvers, especially countering rock bottoms or walls of Jericho, whatnot. At one point, Jericho hit his own rock bottom into a lion salt for a near fall. Then Jericho tried to do the people's elbow, but he missed it. Rock didn't put in a sharpshooter, but he broke out, got to the rope. Then Rock bottomed him through the Spanish announce table. So send our condolences to the Spanish announce table. That's number 9,000 and something that got broken.
Yep. Always the Spanish announce table.
Yeah. Then Rock hit a spine buster, going for the people's elbow, but Jericho countered it into a wall to Jericho. Well, then here comes Stephanie McMahon with a steel chair. Now, Jericho and Stephanie, their little fucking like words were fucking great. Like,
yeah, they had great chemistry with each other.
When she got her tits done, it's like, instead of let the bodies hit the floor, let the boobies hit the floor, or I know there's a Hooters nearby, or saying, thank you, Stephanie, you're the best, or saying we got a man beast and a hose beast, or we're dealing with the gore and the whore, like, oh god, or calling her.
They always had great chemistry with each other.
A trash bag hoe. Yeet. You must not be a Jey Uso fan.
Probably not. We are.
Well, I didn't get this because, she also had some histories with The Rock. Rock calling her a $2 walking slut, whatnot, and shit.
Yeah.
And
kudos to her for taking that bump. Like, when The Rock threw her into the ring. Like, pretty big bump for someone who, at this point, wasn't wrestling. Didn't have a match. I don't know. Was she was already women's champion at, like, one set at this point, right? When she was, like, in DX or whatever?
She won it in 2000.
Yeah, so she's had some matches, but not used to taking bumps. She took a pretty hard backdrop.
Yeah, well, she's going to help The Rock, but Rock was like, no, you put her in the ring and hit her with a rock bottom, and it backfired. Well, Jericho, today we would call it a skull-crushing finale, but this was called the breakdown. He did it on a steel chair, and he's trying to get rid of the chair, but the chair got caught on the ring apron. It was Charles Robinson. He was the referee of this match, but I guess he didn't spot it because he just he's looking at Rock's shoulder to see if he's kicking out. Well, he counts the 1, 2, 3. Jericho wins the WCW title. The crowd in St. Louis just went ape shit. Like, oh my God, Jericho finally won a world championship.
And didn't have to give it back.
Well, he lost it like 2 weeks later. He lost it to The Rock.
But not on the same show like last time. But
yeah,
big moment. Definitely a big moment. And they really were building Jericho at this point. This is like right before he becomes undisputed champion. This was a really big moment for Chris Jericho to finally win the big one like they were building it for. And I think at this point, Jericho was getting really popular with the crowd. This was a great matchup. He really hung with The Rock, too. It wasn't like he was outmatched by The Rock in this match.
And Paul Heyman saying, this got to be the worst night in Stephanie's career because the person she hates the most has just won a world championship. Like, she could have if she'd have stayed out of it. I mean, I don't know if Rock really would have had the advantage and retained, but Paul Heyman did make a point. Like, if you didn't get involved, Rock may have most likely retained the title.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I don't remember what The Rock really told him, but it's like he gave him the steel chair and then he just walked away. He didn't like ambush him or nothing. And Jericho's holding the belt and he's holding the steel chair in his hand. So
I think like JR said, like The Rock handed him like the smoking gun after the match. But
yeah. Well, then we get to our main event. We get Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Kurt Angle and Rob Van Dam in a triple threat match for the WWF Championship. Oh, and breaking alert, it would now be a no disqualification match. I thought every triple threat match was no disqualification.
Yeah, and I mean, nowadays, any multi-man matchup is like, besides tag matches, every multi-man matchup is no DQ. I don't know if it was still that way. I mean, back in the day, but I thought that was weird. They said that they announced it on Sunday Night Heat before the pay-per-view that this matchup is now a no DQ matchup.
So you go back to Unforgiven. Stone Cold tapped out. Kurt Angle won the WWF title in his hometown. Whatnot, had that celebration with his family and friends. Well, Austin left for like a short time. He was gone. He was off TV for like 2 or 3 weeks. While he was gone, RVD was kind of being like that leader for the Alliance because Rob Van Dam was something special. He might have been the only guy in the Alliance that was not booed. When he'd come out, they cheered him. They loved him. They would boo like Shane, Booker, DDP, Rhino, Taz. Chavo, Canyon, whoever, they would all boo them. But if RVD would sneeze or say something, they would cheer for him.
Yeah, no, I mentioned this in the my Invasion pay-per-view review. Rob Van Dam was the only babyface on the Alliance. That crowd loved him. He always got a huge ovation.
Now, remember, he once beat Stone Cold in a match. Like, it was actually the SmackDown before the 9/11 tribute show. Austin got pissed about the Alliance, like, not respecting him or not acknowledging him like he's Roman Reigns or something before we even knew who he was. And he said something like, the next sumbitch that walks in that door, I'm going to open a can of whoop ass on. Well, here comes Rob Van Dam walks in. The crowd goes like, what's up? And he's like, what's up is I'm going to whip your ass tonight. Well, they had a non-title match, and Rob Van Dam scored the upset. He beat Austin, and they all got in the ring and raised him up and celebrated with him like he won the title, and he didn't win shit.
You know, people forget how much of a push RVD got, like, right off the bat. You know, this is only, month 4 with the WWE, and he's already in a main event for the world title. Like you said, prior to this, he has a victory over Stone Cold Steve Austin. If people knew what he was doing in ECW, even when he was a heel in ECW, the crowd loved him because he had that character, he had that persona and in-ring work that you can't hate on. Like, people got behind it. And yeah, I like that he got that continued push from ECW coming into the WWE right away, because it was hard to deny the talent of Rob Van Dam. If you had RVD just in the mid card and wrestling for that hardcore title and not have him in the main event, that's doing yourself a disservice, because that crowd was 100% behind RVD.
Plus, longest reigning TV champion in ECW.
Yeah, two plus years, and never even lost in a match. Had to relinquish it due to injury.
Yeah. And was it his didn't he make his in-ring debut in the WWF against Jeff Hardy at Invasion, or he had a match before that?
I don't know if he had a match before that, but I do know that matchup with Jeff Hardy was awesome. That was probably the match of the night during that Invasion pay-per-view.
Yeah. His first pay-per-view match, he won a title. You know, he won the hardcore title, but the hardcore title was suitable for a guy like Rob Van Dam.
Especially coming in from ECW.
Just like a Raven or Tommy Dreamer or Rhino. They've all held that title. Or Crash Holly. You know, I'm basically naming ECW alumni.
Yeah.
that more, maybe even more relevant than Mick Foley when he had it.
Yeah, I believe Raven must have had, I think Raven had it a record like 39 times or some shit. Like,
I think they said he was a 26-time hardcore champion.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
R-Truth shattered that record when he won the 24/7 title like 57 times, 58 times.
Yeah.
So Austin comes back. That's when Regal joined the Alliance. He cost Kurt Angle the WWF title, and that was Stone Cold's last WWE title reign he ever had.
Yeah, sure. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. Yeah. I like this version of Stone Cold. I like that he was like this lunatic, you know, with the title. I wish they would have kept the Disturbed music. I always loved the Disturbed theme for Stone Cold.
I hated that fucking theme song he had.
What, for this pay-per-view, right?
Yeah, the one.
Yeah, when he came out, I was like, what the hell is this? If it's not like the original Stone Cold theme or the Disturbed theme, like, I don't want to hear it.
This was Alliance theme. It was trash.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, Stone Cold's last title reign was this one, like you said, and it was probably not so memorable. I mean, if you think of like memorable Stone Cold title reigns, do you go back and think of this one?
No, I don't. I think of memorable title reigns. I actually think of his first 4, basically his first, maybe not his first 4 reigns, but definitely his first reign when he won at WrestleMania. The second reign was kind of short. I'll think of that. The third reign was short as well. The fourth one was short too. The one he won at WrestleMania 17 was probably his longest reign ever, because he won it in April and he lost it in September. So that might have been his longest reign ever. And then this one lasted till December at Vengeance. But he came back and he tells RVD, now that I'm back, you know, I'm the leader, I'm the role model. People will answer to me. Well, one night on SmackDown, they're all like in the ring for something. It wasn't Austin Appreciation Night for sure. Well, then we get the return of Mick Foley. Since the Alliance had a commissioner in William Regal, they brought Mick Foley back to be the commissioner for the WWF, and said he was going to make a blockbuster main event, saying Stone Cold was going to defend the title in a triple threat against Kurt Angle and Rob Van Dam. And then RVD's like, well, he also told RVD, he goes, "You're going to be a mega star one day. You're going to get to the top when the time is right." Well, then he told me, he's like, "Well, you said the time is right." And he's like, "Well, I'm in." Austin didn't like it. Austin would like intimidate him, like, you don't care about me. You're supposed to respect me. Well, one night on Raw, I think the title may have been on the line. Austin and Kurt had a match, and RVD came in the air with Stone Cold. He hit a frog splash on Kurt. So Austin got so happy for him, he thought to throw this big celebration for him on SmackDown. He pops out of a limousine. Turns out Vince McMahon was in that limousine. Austin's facial expression said it all. It's like,
yep.
Well, RVD had a match with Kurt. Austin helped. Actually, he cost RVD the match. He attacked Kurt, so Kurt won the match by DQ. He throws RVD out of the ring. He's beating the hell out of Kurt. Well, then when Kurt finally hit Austin with an angle slam, Van Dam gets on the turnbuckle. He's like, "Well, I'm gonna hit next." Well, he hit Stone Cold Steve Austin with the 5-star. The crowd went ape shit. He finally attacked Austin. Then Vince got on the stage and just did the Rob Van Dam. We get to this. Kurt got a mixed reaction. It's so weird hearing that song and not having to say "you suck."
Yeah, this is a couple. Well, is it a year prior? Yeah, like a year, because I think 2002 is when he had the feud with Edge. But yeah, like you said, when you hear that song, you expect to hear the "you suck." So it is weird.
And this version of Kurt Angle, it's like when he had that interview with Coach, he gave me Chad Gable vibes like that. Like he looked like Chad Gable. He reminded me of Chad Gable.
Yeah, I've been saying they need to bring in Kurt Angle for American Made. Have him as the coach for Gable.
Oh my God, he'd be the perfect coach or manager for them and the Creed brothers.
That is
saying that all the time.
Match made in heaven. Come on, you got to make that happen. But Kurt Angle had a way of sounding lame with the things he was saying, like, "Oh, it's Rob Van Dam true," or stuff like that.
Damn true, yeah.
It's Van Dam true. It sounds lame, but he has such a charm when he says it that like you give him the pass. But yeah, he has that. Gable has that same type of personality. It would be perfect.
RVD had a huge pop with the crowd. Like they all wanted him to win. It's like when Austin came out, you heard crickets, but there were probably like a couple of drunk guys in the crowd that were like wasted, like, "Oh my God, it's Stone Cold! Hell yeah!"
Yeah, you saw the fans were like flipping him off on the side when he was coming down the ramp, and Stone Cold went to the.
Then he tried to ambush the cameraman. Yeah, he's getting mad.
That was an awesome entrance.
Well, match kicks off. Kurt Angle's taking everybody to Suplex City. German suplex to Austin, then RVD, then Austin again. Then it's a double team. Well, then whenever they took Kurt out, Austin's like intimidating RVD, like hit me, even like gave him the double finger. RVD gave it back to him. And then Angle gets back in the ring. They're double teaming him again until he attacks RVD. RVD really never made a move on Austin. Austin was like just basically attacking him.
Yeah, RVD had a lot of his offense in on Kurt.
Yeah, just going back and forth with him and Kurt. Kurt Angle had the ankle lock locked in on Austin before RVD broke the hold. The Angle would get thrown out of the ring again, and it was like Austin and RVD for a good 6-7 minutes. And then Angle and Austin go into the crowd. They're fighting in the crowd. Then RVD with that beautiful somersault off the top turnbuckle landed on both guys. And at one point, they were both laid out on the floor. Oh, not on the floor, like on the canvas. RVD goes to hit a 5-star, but they like both moved out of the way. So it's like you didn't know who he was really going to hit.
Yeah.
Austin hit Kurt with one stunner, but RVD breaks the count. They get on the announce table. Austin goes for a power bomb, but Kurt Angle countered it, but the table didn't break. Then here comes Vince McMahon. Then he comes walking out. He's standing there watching RVD and Angle. Well,
another huge pop when McMahon came out too.
Yeah, like now everybody
loves Vince.
I fucking hates him now because he's a fucking predator.
Yeah,
likes to shit on people.
Literally.
Yeah. Well, he hit a second stunner on Kurt, but Kurt like rolled out of the ring. Well, then Austin McMahon comes with a steel chair, hits Austin with the chair, and then RVD hit a fucking beautiful 5-star frog splash. We thought that was the end there, but Kurt Angle broke the 3 count, and Austin got busted wide open from the steel chair. He got it twice, by the way. He got hit in the back, and then he hit him like right between the eyes.
Yeah.
Well, Angle's he delivered 4 German suplexes and an Angle slam to RVD. Well, then here comes fucking Shane McMahon sprinting to the ring, attacking Kurt, giving me King of the Ring vibes when that fucking street fight, one of my favorite matches ever.
Yeah.
And then like out of my left eye, here comes Vince McMahon fucking spear Shane through across the announce table, beating the hell out of his son. Which led to Stone Cold hitting a stunner on RVD to retain his WWF title, and then Vince is like, son of a bitch.
If you remember WrestleMania this year, you had Vince and Shane was clearly the babyface, and Vince was like the most hated heel. And then now, all these months later, still in 2001, the roles are reversed. Vince is getting babyface pops for nailing Shane underneath the table. This was a really good matchup, though. Like, a lot of fun shit. Rob Van Dam was so over. Like, everything he did, every move he hit, that crowd was going crazy for. I think that was a very missed opportunity. I think that if WWE put the title on Van Dam in 2001, it would have worked. It would have worked 100%. That crowd was behind him, even if it was for a short run. Like, that crowd was behind him, and they were pushing him. So I don't think, it would have been a bad thing to have Van Dam as champion, even if he beat Austin for it and held it for like a couple weeks and then Austin won it back, just to crown him as that champion in 2001 and give that crowd their hero. I mean, they were huge into RVD. Everybody was doing the points and the thumbs. And I liked how, Paul Heyman mentioned that when he was in ECW, he was Mr. Pay-Per-View, and now he's main eventing a WWE pay-per-view a few months into his debut. It was a missed opportunity for sure. I think Van Dam would have been a big hit as champion in 2001.
He was Mr. Pay-Per-View. He was Mr. Monday Night, Mr. Thursday Night, or Friday Night, like everywhere.
Yeah, a bunch of names. RVD 420. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't ever remember RVD ever being a heel in the WWE. He was always a babyface. Maybe in ECW, like the old school ECW, he might have been a heel. Maybe, I don't know, but he kind of reminds me like a Rey Mysterio. I've never seen the guy as a heel.
Yeah, in ECW he was a heel, but they had to quickly turn him back to a babyface because even as a heel, he was getting the biggest pops of the night, and that's how he became the whole effing show. Because during the whole show, even if he wasn't in the match, they would be chanting his name and chanting his initials. So you can't have a heel be the most popular guy. So they had to make him a babyface, and I think that was probably the last time he was really a heel. Because you saw with his type of moveset, his type of character and demeanor, it was hard to boo the guy.
Yeah, because like when I first noticed him, I didn't know who he was, but it's like I learned he was from ECW, but like I said, I didn't really watch it. I remembered him in that shitty video game whenever I played it.
Legends of Wrestling?
No, ECW Hardcore Television.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, he was in that game, but I know before he went to WWE, they had like the first Legends of Wrestling came out and RVD was in it.
He was in it, but he wasn't in the second one?
Yeah, because he was already in the WWE in the second one, I believe.
Because they had like Eddie Guerrero in Legends of Wrestling too, and I was like, wow. But
he was even in Legends of Wrestling 3, the Showdown one. Like,
yeah.
Which was weird because I wonder how they were able to get Eddie Guerrero, but not Van Dam.
Well, I'll tell you what, they did able to put the title on him, but like I said, he got fucked. He was champion for like 3 weeks to a month before he smoked weed with Sabu, and then they took it off of him one night and took the ECW title off of him the next night, which was bullshit. And
then now you look at like weed's legal, and if this would have happened nowadays, I mean, there'd probably be no punishment. So it's a shame that Van Dam's reign was cut short because of that.
I even Even in TNA, he had a nice run. Like when I went to I seen him in TNA. Like when I went to my first TNA, not my first TNA, my second TNA show, I saw him. He headlined the show. It was a house show. I saw him as the TNA World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, no, I think his TNA run was probably better than his WWE run because at least he had matches against Sting and AJ Styles. For his WWE run, he had a little prolonged feud with the Big Show and then eventually lost it because of the incident. So it wasn't really anything major.
I will say this: 2000. So it was 2 weeks after Vengeance. I went to that Raw. They came down here. It was December 17, 2001. The main event, it was Chris Jericho's first title defense as the Undisputed Champion. He took on Rob Van Dam. Ric Flair was the referee of the match. And McMahon was at ringside. Him and Flair were not getting along. Well, RVD at one time, had the match won. Vince McMahon pulls him out. And then, I don't know if you remember that, Raw, but it ended the night where Vince put a figure 4 on Vince. Ric Flair put a figure 4 on Vince. RVD put a figure 4 on Jericho side by side. And we saw Jericho tapping out. And they played RVD's music after the show. And Ric Flair raised his hand up. We thought he won the title. And we were like, oh my God. And he's holding the belts. And we were like, did he win the title or not? But when we went back and watched it, they said, no, he won by disqualification. But we got fooled. We thought he won the Undisputed title. I mean, we went home happy. It was like, oh, RVD did win the match. He won by a DQ, but not the way we wanted him to win it. But
there was a couple of times, like in that first couple of years, where I feel like Van Dam should have been given the title. I believe he had a matchup with Triple H during that whole reign of terror, where I wouldn't have been mad if Van Dam won the title during that. I remember he had that Raw match with Shawn Michaels when Shawn Michaels won the title after the Elimination Chamber, which, growing up, I was always a huge Shawn Michaels fan. And then ECW, I was a big Rob Van Dam fan. That was probably the biggest dream match you could pull off if you're like a young Mike Dinero. And when I saw that was on Raw, like it wasn't even given much time. I think Triple H interfered in that matchup. I wish they ran that matchup back on pay-per-view, but they never did. They never went back with Shawn Michaels versus Van Dam. But yeah, a couple times within 2001 to 2003, Van Dam was the most over guy with that, character, and the crowd was loving him. I don't know why he never got the title. I don't know why they waited all the way to 2006 and then did the whole ECW thing for it.
He could have been a good World Heavyweight Champion when he was on Raw.
Yeah, 100%.
Or WWE title reign when he was on SmackDown like in 2004. But anyhow, if you guys never met RVD, he's a fucking cool dude to meet.
Yeah, I got to meet him once.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. I got to meet him at TNA after the show that you would pay to get into the ring and take a picture with him. When I went, it was in the Hammerstein Ballroom. I got to take a picture with him and Jeff Hardy, which was pretty cool.
This was in Lake Charles. Like, it was Memorial Day weekend, so it was like a week or 2 weeks after he won the title at Sacrifice against was it Anderson? He beat, might have been Mr. Anderson he beat for the title.
I think so. His second title reign was, I believe, Anderson.
He was scheduled to be at the show. That's when he had that theme. Rob Van Dam, the whole fucking show.
Effing show.
Yeah. They said, oh, he's going to, he had a open challenge, and he said, somebody a former TNA star or whatever that's making his return tonight at the house show. And they said, he'll be here. And they did like a countdown. And when the count was over, you heard Booker T's theme, and it was Booker T and RVD in the main event of that house show.
Oh, nice.
In TNA.
That was well after Booker T already left, so that must have been like a one-shot deal.
This was in May of 2010, so yeah, it was a house show. Like it was on a.
That's awesome.
I think it was a Friday night show or a Saturday night show. I don't remember. I think it was a Friday night show.
The show I went to with the Hammerstein Ballroom, RVD wasn't announced for that match for that show because this was right after Abyss attacked him with Janice backstage, and he was like torn up. The main event was Tommy Dreamer and Abyss with Mick Foley as the special guest referee, and then Abyss brings out Janice and he's about to attack Tommy Dreamer with it, and then Van Dam makes his return. And it was before he made his return on TV, which was pretty cool, and like helps Tommy Dreamer beat off or take out Abyss. And then you had Jeff Hardy come out, and they had like a makeshift 6-man tag match. It was Jeff Hardy, Rob Van Dam, and Tommy Dreamer versus Beer Money, and I forgot somebody else. And then after the matchup, you got to take pictures with Jeff Hardy and RVD, which was cool.
Nice.
But
Yeah, well, I remember when we first got there, they said, "Oh, there's going to be a big surprise tonight." Well, we thought it was like Hogan or something because that's when Hogan was in TNA.
Yeah.
Hogan was on the cover of the poster when they said, "Oh, TNA Wrestling coming to Lake Charles, Louisiana, May 22nd, 2010." And we were like, "Is that the surprise?" Because when the show started, they played like some audio of Hulk Hogan saying, "Welcome to TNA Wrestling," whatever, brother. Well, no, the surprise happened during intermission. JB got in the ring and he's like, "So the big surprise is tonight after the show, who wants to get in the ring and take a picture with Rob Van Dam?" He's like, "For $20 after the show, you can get in this ring, meet RVD." And then he's like, "And the line's going to start here, like when it's over." Well, we were not far from where the line started. So we were like, didn't have to wait long to get in the ring, but it went by pretty quick. Like you had like 60 seconds to get in the ring, you and your group of people or whatever, for $20. Like, they had a professional photographer in the ring that took the picture, and then it printed out like at this table at the end. And whenever we got it, I went to like a pharmacy or Walmart, made like 5 copies of it, and I still have it framed somewhere in this house. That was just one I posted on Facebook years ago. But I met a lot of good guys that night. Like, I met Kurt Angle that night before the show started. I met him. I met Mr. Anderson, and I met Jeff Jarrett.
That's awesome. I know TNA would do that often because a couple years prior to the show I told you about, 2008, I went to a TNA house show in the Grand Ballroom, which was upstairs from the Hammerstein Ballroom. And that was a really cool show too. The main event this is when Samoa Joe was champion. So it was Joe, Kurt, Christian, and Booker T in a 4-way. Which was awesome because I think that they were going to run that matchup on pay-per-view, but then I think one of them, probably Christian wasn't in the matchup, or Kurt wasn't able to make the matchup. So it was like Booker T, Christian, and Booker T, Christian, and Samoa Joe in a 3-way. But the 4-way that was originally supposed to be on the pay-per-view, we got to see live. And then it was the same thing. Like they said during intermission after the show, if you want to take pictures with Kurt Angle. So we were able to do that. I remember that being a really long line because I was up in the balcony. So by the time we came down to where the line started, we waited for a while, but got to meet Kurt Angle, get in the ring with him, which was really cool. But I always thought that was awesome. TNA was very good with making the fans feel like they were part of something special and giving them things like, "Oh, you could get in the ring." And while you're in the ring with them, the other wrestlers will come out and give autographs around the ring, which was really cool. But yeah, TNA was awesome like that.
Yeah. Oh, we also could have met Samoa Joe if we'd have exited the opposite way we came in, but we didn't park on that side. But the only reason we did not meet Joe was because this was back when we had digital cameras. I forgot to change the batteries. They were going dead, and I was blessed to have able to get one with Jarrett before the batteries completely died, because I went to go turn it back on. It wasn't coming on, and I'm like, "Oh, well, fuck it."
Yeah, I actually just recently met Jeff Jarrett like 2 weeks ago, which was cool.
Yeah, but we were trying to meet Joe, but if we went the other way, but the camera was already dead, so we were like, "Oh, it don't matter, fuck it." We walked out the other way. It's like we already met plenty. Like, I met Kurt and Anderson and RVD and Jarrett. I'm like, that's good enough for me.
You can't go wrong with that. And yeah, this was before the everyone's camera was on their phone, so
yeah. Well, that'll wrap up tonight's episode. This was fun. I'll be doing a couple more nostalgias for the rest of the month. I'm going to do speaking of TNA, I'm going to do one next week. I'm going to do a Bound for Glory. Me and Graydon, we're going to do Bound for Glory 2012. I'm going to try and do a Halloween Havoc. I got to find somebody who's old school WCW, do one of those Halloween Havocs. That's what I got coming up for this month. But real quick, before we can go, let them know where they can find you on social media and the Wrestling Delorean Podcast.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Wrestling Delorean Pod, on TikTok at Wrestling Delorean Pod, on Twitter, X at W_Delorean Pod, on YouTube at Wrestling Delorean Podcast. We drop new shows every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you could catch me on Mondays also with Raw Dogging with Dinero, Dom, and Friends with Benefits. You'll catch me sometimes on Circle of Debate. So there's a lot of places you can find me. If you look, I'm probably there. But this was a blast. I always love coming on here. I appreciate you.
Oh yeah, well, this is the second one you've done. We did ECW One Night Stand. We'll do some more together down the road. Whatever you want to do next, we'll get it scheduled down within the next month or two or whatnot. But all right, man,
you got to come on to DeLorean. I would
absolutely. Oh yeah, we'll make it happen. All right, guys, thank y'all for tuning in, and I'll catch you down the road.